The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
The Prime Minister promised that Wednesdays would be Prime Minister's question period. His public itinerary indicates he's in Ottawa, and he was even spotted in the building. So the question is for the Prime Minister about the carbon tax chaos he has unleashed. He's paused the tax on some heat for some people, leading the government of Alberta to threaten a lawsuit, the government of Saskatchewan to threaten not to collect the tax, NDP provincial parties in the West even turning against it, and some First Nations saying the entire thing is illegal. Will he reverse all of this chaos and just axe the tax?
Before I have the Honourable Minister answer the question, I just want to remind all members it's important not to do indirectly what you can't do directly. As the Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let's actually bring the temperature down and talk about exactly what we've done here. We've accelerated the replacement of home heating oil for heat pumps. Mr. Speaker, it's a national program, and if the Premier of Alberta and the Premier of Saskatchewan want to make sure that people who heat their homes with oil in those provinces have access to the same heat pumps, you know what they can do, Mr. Speaker? They can join 3 Atlantic provinces and BC and sign up for a plan and help low-income people in their province. Will they do it? Time will tell.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the question was for the Prime Minister.
That's right.
He has unleashed carbon tax chaos across the country. After saying he would never bend, he backed down because I kept beating him in these debates in the House of Commons. Right. And he put a 2-year pause on some heating oil for some people, causing Saskatchewan to threaten not to collect the tax, Alberta to threaten a lawsuit, 6 provinces coming out against the plan, First Nations saying it's illegal. If he's so proud of himself and what he's done, then why won't he stand up now and defend it?
Again, I ask all members, please, if you do not have the floor, to refrain from speaking so that we can hear the question and we can hear the answer. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition seems to be too busy patting himself on the back to actually do his homework. At the end of the day, heating oil costs anywhere between 2 and 4 times the price of natural gas. It is a particular driver of energy poverty in this country. We have taken steps forward to improve affordability by enabling the implementation of heat pumps, which will save people up to $2,500 a year, but doing so in the context of a plan to fight climate change, something, again, that the Leader of the Opposition has done nothing about in the years since he became the Leader of the Opposition.
They're here.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Badly for that Liberal minister who's been abandoned by his leader, who the leader of their government won't even stand and defend his own decisions. We know that on Thursday, he suddenly, after having his door beat down by terrified Liberals about to lose their seats, decided to flip-flop and bring in a temporary pause on a tax until after the election, dividing Canadians once again into 2 different classes. If he's so proud of how he's divided people, if he's so proud of how he's forcing Canadians to choose between heating and eating, why won't he have the guts to stand up and say so now?
The Honourable Minister.
I'll tell you who's feeling abandoned by their leader. Conservative Albertans, New Democrat Albertans, Liberal Albertans. You know why, Mr. Speaker? Because Danielle Smith is trying to take Albertans out of the Canada Pension Plan. And what do we have from the Leader of the Conservative Opposition, Mr. Speaker? Weak sauce and platitudes. The pretender to the throne can stand up here right today and say a full-throated defense of Canada Pension Plan while his 30 Alberta MPs stand in silence. Will he or won't he? I know we will, Mr. Speaker, and Albertans can count on us defending them every single day along with their pensions.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, that carbon tax question was for the Prime Minister on Prime Minister's question period today. And I know that I don't have my glasses on, but that guy doesn't look like the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker.
You're right, it's not.
So I have a very simple motion. It says that given that the government has announced a temporary 3-year pause to the federal carbon tax on home heating oil, the House call on the government to extend that pause to all forms of heating oil, period. Will the Prime Minister have the courage to stand up and indicate whether the vote on this motion will be a free vote for his members?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those of us on this side of the House prefer to do good public policy rather than simply just play politics. I know that is an idea that seems to be foreign to the Leader of the Opposition. Heating oil is 2 to 4 times expensive as natural gas. It is a particularly acute issue for people in a number of provinces, not just in Atlantic Canada. The program that we are putting into place applies across the country. It is to ensure that we are addressing concerns around affordability in a thoughtful way while also addressing concerns around climate change, which I'm sure their children will tell them is a very important issue.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
For the Prime Minister, his lone Liberal MP in Edmonton was asked, quote, Western Canada, that they're being left out of this whole home heating oil and the exemption for home heat from the carbon price. Should natural gas be added to that? He said, no, I'm not concerned at all. He then went on to say that if Albertans want to have the exemption, they can switch their furnaces over to oil. What? Does the Prime Minister agree with his member from Edmonton that Albertans should spend thousands of dollars putting in a more emitting source of energy just to avoid paying the carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister.
The hockey team that plays in my home city is called the Oilers, and we just handed a defeat to his former team, the Flames. But that being said, Mr. Speaker, if I misspoke, let me be clear in this House. Albertans right now can actually use a federal program to go from natural gas to a heat pump with a $5,000 credit from our government or a $40,000 interest-free loan. It's the Green Homes Program, it's the Green Loans Program, and if Premier Smith wants to extend free home pumps to Albertans to get off of heating oil, she can join Atlantic Premiers and work with the feds to make exactly that happen.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I can understand why the Prime Minister didn't want to stand up and defend that comment from his Liberal member. But, you know, this comment is similar to what we heard from Paul McLaughlin. He's the president of the Rural Municipalities of Alberta. And he said, and I quote, if I have an understanding that I can buy heating oil, which is effectively kerosene, and I can buy it with no carbon levy, I will change all my grain drying and my barn heating to heating oil. I'll tell you right now, there are folks doing the math. So the government is now incentivizing farmers to spend money shifting from natural gas drying and heating over to oil heating, which has higher emissions. This makes no sense. Why won't he just shake off this lunacy and axe the tax?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Heating oil, perhaps the honourable member does not understand this, heating oil is 2 to 4 times as expensive as natural gas. It is a particularly acute issue with respect to heating and affordability. I would tell you, though, that he should also be aware that the exemption is for 3 years, during which time people are expected to implement heat pumps to ensure that they actually have an affordable way to address this issue, but in a manner that is consistent with fighting climate change, something, again, that the honourable leader either doesn't believe in or certainly doesn't think is important.